Hello and welcome back everyone, we Weeb Online, and today I'm gonna continue the story What If Fem Naruto Became Madara's Girlfriend Part 5. If you enjoy this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an upload. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
A day before Christmas, you might see a lot of people in Tanzakugai shops doing their last-minute Christmas shopping. Christmas week is always the coldest week of winter. Snow and icy streets make it hard to walk. Uchiha Seo is also in Tanzakugai doing some last-minute Christmas shopping. She is wearing a dark red coat over her usual ninja clothes and boots instead of sandals, like every other ninja who doesn't want frostbite in the winter. She was keeping warm by wrapping a white silk scarf around her neck as she went shopping. Madara isn't with her this time, since his father passed the mantle of clan head to him a year ago when he and his wife got married, and Uchiha Hige then retired and only stayed on as a sort of advisor to his son. The young head of the Uchiha clan has a lot on his plate. Madara was different from most men when it came to his wife. He didn't mind going shopping with her or even being her pack mule. In fact, the young man had often wondered why most men hated going shopping with their wives. And again, Madara had never liked it when a certain Senju made Seo leave his sight for even a second. Seo muttered, "I guess that's it," as she looked at her shopping list and put several sealing scrolls in her pack, where she had just put all the things she bought because Madara wasn't here to help her carry them. Just then, a gust of wind blew past her, and when she turned, she saw a young girl, maybe 9 years old, running past her and laughing happily. Another girl and 2 boys her age were chasing her, also laughing. Wait, Yumi-chan." The second girl yelled after her friend. "Please wait. You have to hurry up." Then, as they went around a corner, their happy laughter stopped, and Seo's lips twitched just a little. That sight made her think of some old times. She told him about the last Christmas she spent with Sena, Izuna, and Madara, before Izuna died and Sena fell into a coma. Sena said cheerfully, "Come on, Seo, don't be such a jerk," as she dragged her reluctant friend with her to who knows where, the snow crunching under their boots as they walked. Both of them are wearing warm coats because the weather is getting colder. "It won't kill you to take a day off from your books and studies?" Seo asked with a sigh. "Where are we going, anyway?" "I came because you said it wouldn't take long," he said. "Come on, it's Christmas. At least take the day off," Sena said with a frown. "Oi." Sena pulled Seo to the plaza of the Uchiha clan enclave, where the younger Uchiha children liked to play when they weren't training. They heard a loud shout. When winter came, though, the kids made makeshift igloos that often fell apart before the end of the day. They also made snowmen of all sizes to decorate the plaza. Now, pretty lights were wrapped around the trees in the plaza, and several tables and chairs were also set up. There were many plates and foods of every kind on the tables, and Seo thought she saw a Christmas tree. Seo asked, "What's going on?" as Izuna and Madara came up to them with the same smiles on their faces. Izuna yelled, "A Christmas party," and pumped his fist in the air. Recently, there hasn't been much to celebrate, so Tusan thought that since it's Christmas, we might as well have a party since it's a holiday. Sena grabbed Seo's thick book and added, "And you can at least stop reading for a day. Christmas is a time to get together and have fun." "Oh, and Seo and Nai-san." Izuna smiled when he heard their names, just as 2 Uchiha ninjas ran past them with a long table in between them. Madara looked at his brother with a questioning eyebrow, while Seo just stared. Izuna's smile only got bigger, and Madara knew right away that it was his brother's prankster look because it was getting bigger. "If you want to kiss, the mistletoe is somewhere over there." Izuna grinned so big that it looked like it would split his face in half as he waved his hand in the direction of the big Christmas tree. Before turning back to Izuna, Madara and Seo quickly looked at each other, which only made things worse. Madara yelled, "Your ass is mine," as he pulled out a kunai and chased a scared-looking Izuna around the plaza. All the other Uchihas laughed as they watched the 2 Uchiha brothers play tag. Sena laughed as she watched the 2 of them run around, rubbing a small bump on her stomach to show that she is carrying Izuna's child. Seo looked at Sena with a frown, and Sena raised an eyebrow. Seo didn't buy Sena's act of innocence when she asked, "What?" Seo asked with a resigned sigh, "You 2 are setting people up again, aren't you?" Seo wouldn't even be surprised if angel wings grew out of Sena's back or a halo formed above her head. All Sena did was smile at her best friend with a smile that looked like an angel's. Sena asked innocently, "Why, what could you be talking about?" Seo sighed. Seo smiled a small sad smile. She thought, Izuna, Sena, before she looked up into the sky and put her hand over her eyes to protect them from the sun. The war is finally over, and all the fighting between the shinobi clans has finally stopped. We don't need to keep fighting anymore. But, she made a tight fist with one hand at her side. I wish you both were still with us. Seo gave a small smile as she looked into the glass window of the store she was standing in front of. There were a lot of Christmas items on display, including a beautiful Christmas paperweight in a glass dome with snowflakes falling on a small town inside. War is a trick. It does nothing but make both sides hurt and suffer more. In a war, there is no real winner. The real winner is the one who comes out of the battle still alive and breathing. Seo thought, the road to peace is often also paved with the blood of war. Izuna, you could be right about that. I didn't like the idea of the Senju Uchiha alliance either, though the fact that I was almost engaged to Senju Hashirama might have had something to do with it. But even I can't deny that peace is finally here. Maybe it's just a short-term thing, but I'm going to enjoy it as long as I can. I want to help keep the peace and see smiles on the faces of the children. I don't want Haru to grow up just like we did. Seo turned around, and when she did, she saw Madara standing behind her. He was wearing a black coat and black boots, and a gray scarf was wrapped around his neck. He walked up to her and put one arm around her shoulders. She smiled back at him. Madara asked, "Are you done with your shopping?" Seo said, "Yes. I'm sorry, but the meeting took longer than I thought it would." Seo turned her head away. She said, "It's fine." She smiled and said, "Christmas is always the most beautiful time of year. It is also the quietest, and I could almost imagine Izuna and Sana with us." Madara didn't say anything. He could almost see Sana hunching over her knees as she looked into the shop display window through the slightly frosted window glass, her breaths making a slight mist on the glass as she smiled at something she liked in the window. "Izuna, look, that looks nice, doesn't it?" Sana exclaimed, pointing at whatever had caught her eye. Izuna looked over Sana's shoulder to see what had caught her attention and asked, "Where?" He then gave a grin. "Oh, yes, you're right. That is lovely, isn't it?" Izuna grinned. He asked, "Do you want me to get that for you?" The smile on Sana's face is probably enough of a reward for Izuna, even if she doesn't get what she wanted. "Really? Well, thanks," Izuna said with a smile. "Hey, it's a man's job to make his wife happy." Then he looked at his brother and Seo. "What about you, Nai-san? Why don't you get something for Seo? Christmas is a time for giving thanks and gifts, after all." Next to Izuna, Sana gave an excited nod. She chirped, "That's right. For once, Seo, let us be the ones to give you something. After all, it is Christmas." Izuna and Sana's laughter, which chimed together, stopped. Seo and Madara were thinking when small snowflakes started falling from the sky. When Seo looked up, she saw snowflakes falling to the ground. She muttered, "Snow," and held out one hand. Snowflakes fell onto the hand that was open. Madara stood still and looked at her. "Falling like diamonds, falling like raindrops. Once they fall, they are gone forever." Seo smiled and looked at Madara. "That old poem," she said, and then she looked at the paperweight in the window. Madara gave her a small smile. "Like magic, it will be there again the next day," he said. Just then, a paper bag came into her line of sight. Seo blinked and then turned to look at Madara. "After all, it is Christmas," he said with a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Happy holidays." Seo smiled and opened the paper bag. Inside was the paperweight of the tiny town she had been looking at for the past 30 minutes. She said, "Thank you," in a soft voice. "I'm afraid I don't have anything to give you." Madara shook his head. "The best Christmas gift you can give me is for you to be here for me," he said. Seo gave that a smile. Just then, Seo and Madara heard the uplifting tunes of a Christmas carol. When they turned around, they saw 5 teenagers, all about 17 years old, standing around the huge Christmas tree in the middle of town and singing a Christmas carol. People in the town also stopped what they were doing to listen to them. "Imura na yoru ga kite kokoro wa tadeyu. Ori no nai monogatari no hi no koibito yo. Wakasugi uru futari nai wa yabio wa fukasugi sahimo mitsukura ritsuni. Wakar dal hitoki. Rimura raka rihatada ai wo yo migeru. Zudo no aiko tobasi itoshi nu koaru. Imura na yoru ga kite kokoro wa tadeyu. Ori no nai monogatari no hi no koibito yo. Heiji kueshi yao kage wa shingadu. Seigo no koi de kara kyoku wa kesanai. Kasugi uru futari nai wa yabio wa fukasugi sahimo mitsukura ritsuni. Wakar dal hitoki. Nimura na yoru ga kite kokoro wa tadeyu. Ori no nai monogatari no hi no koibito yo no hi no koibito yo. Madara smiled and put his hand out to Seo. He asked, "Should we go home?" Seo smiled and took his hand, and the two of them walked back to the Uchiha clan enclave together. "Happy holidays." Seo changed the flowers in the vase on the bedside table in silence before sitting down on the visitor chair next to the bed. Like always, the person in the bed was still and didn't move. Seo could only tell that she was still alive because of the machines that were hooked up to her. Seo and Madara have been gone from Konoha for about 30 years, and it has been even longer since Uchiha Sena fell into a coma. Until today, not even Seo knew why Sena didn't seem to get older in all that time. Sena's years in a coma, during which she didn't eat anything solid, had taken a toll on her. Her skin is very pale, and her once shoulder-length raven hair has grown down to almost her ankles. It would have been longer if Seo hadn't decided to cut Sena's hair when it got past her ankles. Sena's cheekbones and finger joints were also pretty easy to see by this point. If the redhead hadn't known better, she would have thought that Sena is a skeleton dressed up as a person. Seo sighed and reached into her pocket for another seashell. She looked at it for a while and then put it on the bedside table, where there were already a lot of other shells. Seo kept up the tradition she started when Sena first fell into a coma all those years ago. She left one seashell every day when she visited Sena after going somewhere else outside the village. When Sena fell into a coma for the first time, Seo went to see her almost every day. But after many years and the start of the Second Great Shinobi War, and then the Third Great Shinobi War, Seo only came once a week. But sometimes she can only see Sena once every 2 weeks because of her job as head tactician of Tsukigakure and the missions she usually goes on to keep the village safe. Seo said, Sena, as she looked at her best friend's pale face and thought about how her best friend's cheeks used to be bright and rosy. She couldn't believe that the happy girl from back then is the same person lying in this bed now. The redhead set her teeth together. Every time she went to see Sena, she couldn't help but curse Senju Hashirama for making her and them go through this. He is the reason why Haru never knew his parents when he was growing up, and he is also the reason why Sena lost about 40 years of her life. Seo and Madara have both left the village because of him. Seo muttered, It's been almost 40 years, Sena. She took her best friend's hand and rubbed small circles with her thumb on the back of Sena's hand, being careful to avoid the tube that gave Sena the fluids and nutrients she needed to stay alive. You've been sleeping the whole time. While you were sleeping, the world changed a lot. When are you going to wake up? You've missed a lot. Seo felt a hand on her shoulder at that moment. When she looked up, Madara was standing next to her with a look of understanding on his face. Seo smiled at him and put her hand on his before turning back to Sena. You missed Haru's first steps, his first words, and even his first day at the academy. You missed our wedding and Haru's wedding to Miki. You missed the birth of their first child and the chance to hold your first grandchild. You weren't there when Haiki-sama died. You weren't there when Konoha became a hidden village. Seo's lips trembled with emotion, and Madara tightened his grip on her. You weren't there when the Uchiha clan's power was finally recognized, and you weren't there when I needed you the most. Seo almost whispered the last part before wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. I know you can't do anything about it, but I miss you so much. I want to see you open your eyes again, talk to me, laugh with us, and do everything you used to do with us. Please, Sena, won't you wake up? Seo, on the other hand, heard the machines beeping over and over again. She sighed and got up from the visitor's chair she was sitting in. Sena's room was filled with flowers, books, and even posters, which showed that she had been a patient there for a long time. Even Haru, Seo, and Madara were photographed, as well as Seo, Madara, Izuna, and Sena from even earlier. Even on the day Haru was born, there was a picture of that. Seo had kept all of these pictures in great shape, and she thought that putting them here might help Sena wake up. Even though it hadn't done much yet, Seo still kept her hopes up. Madara took both of Seo's hands and gave her a cautious nod, but she didn't say anything. Madara and Seo have been married for so long that he doesn't have to use words to tell her what he wants. The redhead nodded back, then turned back to Sena and looked over her shoulder at the girl with raven hair who was lying on the bed. She said, I have to go. I'll be back soon, Sena, I told her. Seo followed Madara out of Sena's hospital room, and Madara shut the door after them. Then he stopped at the wall outside Sena's hospital room, where Seo was leaning with her back against the wall. Madara couldn't see Seo's face because the redhead had her head down, but he knew exactly how she felt. He felt the same way every time he came here to see his sister-in-law, but he knew it was 100 times worse for Seo because Sena had been her best friend and was almost like a sister to her. She'll wake up one day, said Madara. He felt pain inside. He always told Seo the same thing when she looked so sad after seeing Sena. I know for sure that Sena can't stay down for long. Seo muttered, when? She didn't look up at Madara, who was still leaning against the wall, though. When is she going to wake up? I have so much to tell her. I have so much to do with her. Just like that. She's lost almost 40 years of her life, maybe even more. 40 years. So much has happened, and the world has changed a lot as well. So tell me, when is she going to wake up? And when she does, what am I going to tell her? How am I going to tell her that 40, nearly 50 years of her life is gone just like that? When Seo surprised Madara when she put her head on his chest and grabbed the pieces of his jounin uniform that he was wearing under his Tsukikage cloak. She was shaking slightly, and Madara could tell that she was crying to herself. He sighed and put his arms around his wife to protect her. How will I tell her all of this when she wakes up? Seo whispered. Sometimes I wish she would never wake up so she wouldn't have to face all that. The truth is too cruel for her. But sometimes I wish she would wake up soon so that Sana could see for herself what Haru's life was like. Am I being too self-centered? Madara sighed and tightened his hold on Seo. No, he said, because I want the same thing. Roots House of Roots. Kano Hagakure no Sado. Shimura Danzo glared at the fidgeting shinobi in front of him. The man was the only survivor of the whole squad that Danzo had sent to aim to help that fool Hanzo. The shinobi had just finished giving Danzo his report, and Danzo's glare had gotten colder and colder with each word the man said. Danzo made a fist with one hand and said, "If you're lying, you'd better start praying." "No sir," his shinobi insisted, "I'm not lying. That's what the redhead said when she left me alive." She told him to tell Shimura Danzo, "Seo-sensei says hello." Danzo frowned at his ninja while his mind raced. His teacher was the legendary tactician of Konoha, and no other tactician has come along yet who can match her skills. Not even the Nara clan, which was known for producing brilliant tacticians and strategists at the time, could compare to her. As her student, Danzo learned some war and battle strategies and tactics from her, which is how he got the nickname Warhawk. Uchiha Seo taught him how to plan strategies and how to plan battles. She taught him how to turn even the worst situations and battles to their advantage. She taught him how to be a true shinobi. She taught him when to stay on the offensive and when to know when to retreat. She taught him how to turn a failure into a success. What else did she say? Danzo asked carefully, remembering all of his teacher's lessons and advice. If the person his shinobi said was Seo-sensei, she would have said something that only Danzo would know to confirm her identity. "Yes, sir," the shinobi said, still kneeling on the ground and not daring to look his leader in the eyes. "Ninjas from other villages don't get involved in the politics of another village." "Yes, she said that." His eyes got bigger. "Then why? Why can't we go help?" Danzo, who was 12 years old, asked his teacher as they stood on the head of the first Hokage on the Hokage monument and looked out over the village of Konoha. With Konoha's military power and strength right now. "That's right, Danzo," Uchiha Seo said solemnly as she looked down at her student, the ends of her coat gently swaying in the wind. "Because of our military strength and power, we shouldn't get involved in Taki's business, especially since they just lost their leader." "Then why?" Danzo asked again. "Shouldn't they be grateful for the help? Aren't we allies?" Seo smiled and said, "That's a nice way to put it, Danzo." She then became more serious and said, "Listen, Danzo, and this is something you must remember. We might say that Takagakure is one of our allies, but in reality, we just have an agreement with them. We don't go into Taki's lands, so they won't bother us. The peace deal that the ninja villages of each country made with each other isn't very stable right now. One mistake could start a war. And I think we've all been sick and tired of war for a long time. I'm sure of it. But that's wrong. Taki is in trouble now," Danzo said in a low voice. "Instead of worrying about something like this, shouldn't we go help them?" Seo sighed. "I don't like this any more than you do, but you have to realize that politics is a dangerous game. Also, it's every man for himself out there. In politics and war, Danzo, you can only trust yourself. That's how a ninja lives. Ninjas from other villages don't get involved with the politics of another village, either." Danzo felt a headache coming on all of a sudden. "Okay," he told the shinobi in front of him, "you're fired." The shinobi saluted him and left his office. The Roots commander then sighed and picked up the silver photo frame on his desk to look at the picture inside. The picture was of him, Haru, Seo, and Madara when they were all 18 years old, standing outside the Hokage Tower with Orochimaru and Jiraiya when they were 5 years old. Danzo sighed as he looked at the photo. "Sensei, could it really be you?" he thought. "I had never believed that you and Madara-sama are dead. But could it really be you?" He looked at the photo even more closely, staring at the image of a smiling Haru. "Haru-senpai," he whispered. "Sorry, I promised you that I would take care of the Uchiha clan before you died. But it seems like I've been breaking that promise every day. I'm limited in what I can do. Shimura-senpai." Just then, he heard a soft voice and heard a knock on the door of his open office. Danzo put the picture frame on his desk and turned around to face the entrance of his office, where he saw Orochimaru standing with a serious face. "Orochimaru, are you back?" Danzo questioned. Orochimaru nodded and said, "Hi. Jiraiya is also back with me." We're here to give Hokage-sama updates on all the squads he sent out and to get new orders and supplies, if we can get them. He gave Danzo a grim look and said, "It doesn't look good for us." Danzo sighed and said, "If only Sensei were here. If only she were here." Orochimaru gave a small smile. "Yeah, Jiraiya has been complaining about that for days," he said. "If only Seo-sensei were here." He sighed. "I just saw your shinobi walking down the hallway. He told me what happened in Aimgakure." Then he got serious and asked, "Is it true? Is Seo-sensei?" Danzo sighed loudly. "I'm not sure," he said. "But then again, she's the only one who can use these techniques. You and I both know that we have never really believed that Seo-sensei and Madara-sama are dead. But if she is still alive, where has she been all these years? What has she done all this time?" Orochimaru wondered. "I wonder," Danzo said. "This village." He got up from his seat and walked over to the window, where he looked down at the village of Konoha with a grim smile. Konoha is her life's work. Seo-sensei, she, Madara-sama, Tabarama-sama, and Shadaime-sama started Konoha and made it what it is now. But Seo-sensei and Madara-sama did most of the work. Even now, their work from decades ago is still protecting Konoha, the security system and the seal alarms system. Danzo clenched one hand into a fist. Yet this village, they have no right to insult her name or the name of her clan. Yeah, Orochimaru sighed. Jiraiya told me that one of his former students, Fugaku or something, was upset about that. He said that his father had been having trouble with the council or something. Sarutobai's soft heart has made this village weak, Danzo said with a snort. This is a ninja village. Could you tell me why the people in this village have a say in how it is run? Orochimaru didn't say anything, and Danzo said something under his breath. This village is getting weaker. When I was a boy, Konoha was not the same as it is now. I'm not going to let that happen. Not as long as I'm alive. Ik word der Hokage. Either you or me. He looked at Orochimaru, who looked surprised. Jiraiya means well, as he has also learned from Seo-sensei, but he also follows Sarutobai's rules. If a Senju supporter becomes Hokage, it won't help the Uchiha clan at all. Even people can only take so much. There's only so much they can handle. That's true, Orochimaru said with a sigh. The office of Tsukikage, Tsukigakure no Sato, Tsuki no Kuni. Seo and Madara saved 3 aim from Salamander Hanzo and brought them to Tsukigakure as promised when they left them there almost a week ago. Now that Hanzo is dead, the 3 aim are in charge of Aimgakure, with Yahiko as the leader, much to his displeasure. Now that things are mostly calm in Aim, Yahiko, Konan, and Nagato left someone they trusted in charge while they went to Tsukigakure to find the answers they were looking for. They had to wait about an hour at one of the shinobi outposts in Tsuki no Kuni before a Tsuki nin came to take them to the village, but the 3 were patient. Then, that's, Nagato gasped when he saw the ripple-like pattern in Seo's eyes as she used her Daojutsu after Seo, and Madara told them who they are. It's the same as Nagato's, Konan said almost in a whisper. The Rinnegan. Madara was laughing as Yahiko did a great impression of a fish. Seo then sighed and turned off her Daojutsu. We didn't want to tell anyone about this at first because the less people who knew about it, the better, she said, giving Madara a look. But we think that Hanzo might be one of his inner people, too. Yahiko made a face. He echoed. Madara sighed and got up from his desk. Aim wasn't like this before, was she? I thought so, he said bluntly. The 3 Aims shook their heads. I thought so, too. He looked at Seo for a moment before turning back to them. You see, we were first interested in Aim and Hanzo because the way he rules Aim through fear is similar to how someone else we knew in the past did it. Who? After a few moments of silence, Seo answered, Toshigaki Hyor, with a look on her face that suggested she had just smelled something bad. Toshigaki Hyor, Madara said. We fought against him during the Shinobi clan wars. He is a powerful shinobi who we had to beat, so much so that even Seo couldn't do anything but seal him away. Hyor is not a friend of people. Despite what you think, Seo said bluntly, narrowing her eyes. He uses people. Back then, all I could do was lock him away. Even though Madara was with me at the time, I couldn't kill him. I could not kill him. He has a power that is very scary. So much so that I'm not sure he's even a person. But even seals aren't eternal. Don't worry, he will come back someday. That's part of why we're getting together, friends. Without a doubt, Raven's Gate, the group Hor started, has been doing the same thing for the past few years. But what do they want to do? Conan asked, sounding a bit strangely scared. Sayo and Madara looked at each other. Madara said, "We don't know, and that's why we're looking into it. But it's not easy, because Raven's Gate has been almost completely hidden from view for almost 50 years. But we know they are still out there." Sayo sighed and added, "Fighting isn't just about winning or losing, either. Those of us who have been in battles and seen wars know this better than anyone else. If everyone dies in the end, there is no winner. The one who stays alive is the real winner. But because of Hyor and Raven's Gate, we are building a force to fight back against him. We call it the Akatsuki." She looked at the three of them and asked, "Can you help us?" After a few moments of silence, the three AIM looked at each other and grinned. Yahiko then turned back to Sayo and said, "If this Raven's Gate and Hyor are threatening the peace and about to bring war back on our heads, then I'll stop him. We're in." Madara nodded and said, "Good. But for now, please keep the existence of Akatsuki a secret." Yahiko nodded. "Who is this Hyor?" Nagato asked slowly. Sayo sighed and said, "He has many names. The most famous one is the one he was known by during the Shinobi clan wars." She narrowed her eyes and said, "Abe no Seimei." Nearing sunset, the sun is slowly sinking below the horizon. As Haruno Sakura walked slowly into Training Ground 7, she carried a bouquet of white lilies. The sky was a beautiful orange-red color. As the pink-haired Kunoichi looked around the training ground she was in, her lips twitched into a small smile. It is the same place where she and her old genin team trained when they were genin. Even the training posts were still there, and for a moment, she could almost see Sayo tied to the middle one. Sakura shook her head to get rid of those thoughts, and then she went straight to the monument stone near Training Ground 7. This stone is a memorial to all their heroes who have died. The pink-haired Kunoichi put the bouquet of white lilies on the ground at the foot of the monument stone. It joined a small group of other items and flower bouquets that were already there. She then put her hands together and said a small prayer under her breath. The Third Great Shinobi War is over, but a lot of lives were lost. The now 21-year-old Jounin had also met a younger version of her old Jounin teacher, Hadake Kakashi, in the hospital about 6 months ago. The future Yondaime Hokage had rushed him and his female student, Nishimura Rin, there for a checkup. It seems that the mission they were on went wrong, and Minato lost one of his students, a uchiha named Abido. At the same time, Kakashi also lost an eye, and Abido gave Kakashi one of his Sharingan eyes. Sakura was the only doctor around at the time, so she took the time to check on her old teacher's health and body. When she was done, she was amused to see her old teacher's worried father, Hakata Sakumo, who had almost broken down the door of the exam room to see his son. And that was how Sakura became friends with both of the Hadakes. Sakura opened her eyes and read the names that had just been written on the monument stone. One of the names was Uchiha Abido. The Uchihas didn't like that Kakashi had one of their Sharingan eyes, but after talking with Shimura Danzo, the head of the Uchiha clan decided to let it go. Nishimura Rin, on the other hand, was very sad and cried a lot for days after Abido died. She locked herself in her apartment and was only joined by a giant teddy bear that Abido had given her as a graduation gift when they both graduated from the academy. Sakura is a certified counselor and doctor, and the pink-haired Kunoichi thought that Tsunade and her husband, Kadudan, who is in charge of the Jounin forces in Konoha, were actually trying to set up Rin and Kakashi. This is because Tsunade made Sakura Rin and Kakashi's counselor and doctor. Sakura didn't have a hard time getting close to Rin because the brunette reminded her of herself after Sasuke betrayed them and almost killed Sayo. Kakashi is the hard one to deal with, but with his father there to help him, it wasn't as bad as Sakura thought it would be. Several of the pink-haired Kunoichi's female co-workers are already making fun of her and Hadake Sakumo, which annoys her. And if Shikamaru and Neji are telling the truth, the poor White Fang of Konoha is in the same situation as she is. Sakura looked at the names on the monument stone and thought back to when they were fighting the Akatsuki and Sayo had talked to her at the monument stone. Fighting is not just about who wins and who loses. We know this better than anyone else because we have been in and seen wars. If everyone dies in the end, there is no winner. The one who stays alive is the real winner. Sakura. So, that's war. Sakura let out a sigh and moved a strand of her pink hair out of her eyes. Since the war has been going on for a few years, she hasn't had a chance to cut it, and it's now a little bit longer than her shoulders. The fighting is over. Though what price? Sakura thought as she stood up. So many deaths, so many people have died fighting in a war that was started by some barbarians who wanted to fight. Sakura closed her eyes for a moment. Sayo, did you feel this way back then? Do you mean this when you say that the real winner is the one who stays alive? Just then, she heard the sound of light footsteps. When she turned around, she saw Shikamaru and Neji coming toward her. They both had serious looks on their faces, though it was hard to tell with Neji's blindfold on. When Sakura saw that blindfold, it made her sad because it also made her think of Senju Tabarama's death. A few months ago, the second Hokage of Konoha died in a battle that took out almost a quarter of Iwa's army. That was the turning point in the war for Konoha. Nearly 2 months later, Iwa gave up and the war ended. When Sarutobi Hijin told Tsunade that his mentor had died, she cried a lot. And Shimura Danzo risked his own life to get Senju Tabarama's body off the battlefield. Katudan was there for Tsunade, which was good, and after a whole day of crying, Tsunade was back to being herself. Sakura nodded at Shikamaru and Neji, and they both nodded back. All three of them then looked at the memorial stone to honor their fallen friends. This is how the world works, Shikamaru said out of the blue. To kill is to die, and to hate is to be hated. Sakura and Neji both looked at him right away. Huh? Shikamaru looked at his two friends and said, Seo told me that once. Right after we both went after Uchiha Madara. After that battle, she became really angry. I don't even know why. Maybe she understood what Uchiha Madara said to her that I don't understand in the least. Seo always had a better understanding of how human minds work. Seo changed after that battle. She became very angry and bitter ... all the way until she disappeared. Neji quietly turned back to the monument stone and read the names written on it with eyes that no one could see. Probably, he said, Seo learned something during that fight with Uchiha Madara. Whatever it was that she realized, it's probably just something she'll know. Sakura asked what had happened back then. Shikamaru grunted. Who knows? He muttered, his eyes getting cloudy as he thought about the last moments of Uchiha Madara. Seo and Shikamaru both had heavy wounds and tears on their bodies and clothes, and they both had trouble breathing. Seo has a broken katana in her left hand, and Shikamaru's hands are bleeding badly because he has overused his chakra and burned them badly. Both of them moved carefully toward Uchiha Madara, whose body was bleeding and broken. She had been hit hard by Seo's two Futen, Rasen Shuriken, which had almost torn all of the muscles in her left arm. Seo asked Uchiha Madara while kneeling next to him, are you happy now? Madara Uchiha coughed up blood and looked up at Seo with his eyes all glazed over. My era is really over, he grumbled. He coughed again and said, Itachi was right. You look like her, he said, shaking his hand out to Seo. Just like Seo. Madara coughed again. I wonder if we ever had a daughter, if she would look like you. You ... are the same as Seo, too. Shikamaru asked, are you happy now? What is the point of all this destruction? All these fights, the war, Akatsuki. Even if you wanted to bring your wife back to life, you shouldn't have to go to all this trouble. Seo and Shikamaru's eyes got big when he said, I wanted to destroy Konoha. I hate ... that village. That village brought Seo nothing but pain and more pain. That man said it was so. Seo asked, who is that man? Madara had to cough. I'm dying soon anyway. He glanced up at Seo. If you really want to know, go to the hidden shrine in the Uchiha compound. Behind the altar is a special chakra seal that my wife made. To open it, form the dog, bear, rabbit, rat, and dragon seals in order and tap the seal with your chakra. You'll ... know everything then. If you have the courage to want to know the truth ... the horrible truth about how Konoha was founded. Madara had to cough. For a long time, I wanted to destroy Konoha, but if Konoha is in the hands of someone like you. Madara looked up at Seo while breathing heavily. Then, maybe, I'll be happy. If someone like you is the Hokage, it might not be so bad after all, he said as he coughed up more blood. The future of the shinobi nations. If it's you, you could change the very soul of the shinobi. It's a shame I wouldn't be there to see it. Madara took deep breaths and gasped for air. Above him, Seo and Shikamaru exchanged looks. His lungs had given out after that last attack. Even for him, death is now a sure thing. I'm tired. Madara slurred. I want to sleep now. I'm really tired. It's been over 100 years. He reached out with a shaking hand toward the shape of his wife in that flower bed, and a small, peaceful smile appeared on his face. Hey, Seo, am I right? He and that village deserved everything they got for what they did to us, to the clan, right? Answer me, Seo. He coughed. Now it's over. Madara looked up at Shikamaru and Seo with half-closed eyes. You both are part of a generation that is the future of the shinobi. If it is both of you, you might shape a future that is unlike any other. He coughed. I need to rest now, he said with a heavy breath. Izuna, Sena, Seo. He slurred. He coughed hard. I can see them. Seo, he muttered, the dream has come true. By someone who looked so much like you that I almost thought it was you all over again. Is this your answer? He briefly closed and opened his eyes, but he didn't seem to see anything. I'm on my way now. Then his eyes closed. Shikamaru said, "I'm sorry, but I need some time alone for a change." He then turned and waved goodbye to his friends. The former Nara, who is now Kaiga, then took the same path he always took when walking up to the Hokage monument, where he always looked first when looking for his red-headed friend. The shadow user then climbed to the top of the third's head and sat down there while he looked over the village. Sayo liked to sit here all the time. She said it gives her time to think. Shikamaru frowned. You look like her like Sayo. I wonder if we ever had a child. A daughter if she will look like you. You are the same as Sayo, too. Sayo, the dream has come true. By someone who reminded me so much of you that I almost thought you were back. Is this what you meant? Shikamaru sighed and then did what he always did when he was confused or upset. He rubbed the lobe of his left ear. Sayo, what did you know? He wondered. Back then, after our fight with Uchiha Madara, Sakura led us out of the hospital. You dragged me to the Uchiha compound and went straight to the shrine he had talked about. There, we found his diary. I don't understand the later entries, which were written before he left the village, but you did. Did you know anything? What did those entries teach you? Shikamaru gave himself a sad smile, then pulled his knees up to his chest and wrapped his arms around them. Why did you never let me help you? Sayo, Uchiha Madara almost broke down the bathroom door, but all he could smell was the strong smell of blood. He was almost used to it by now, since he had been a ninja for almost all of his life. But he isn't ready to accept what he saw right in front of him. His wife, a woman named Uchiha Sayo, was leaning against the sides of the bathtub in their bathroom. The water tap was running, slowly filling the tub. Sayo's left hand was half in the water, and the deep cut on her left wrist was slowly making the water turn red. A bloody kunai was also in her right hand, barely held onto by her limp fingers. Madara almost felt like he couldn't breathe. Only twice in his life had he ever felt like this. The first is when he realized that his beloved younger brother really was dead. The second time was when he heard from some Hyuga bad rumors that his wife was sleeping with Senju Hashirama. Sayo, Madara ran to his wife's side and held her body in his arms. He tore a piece of his kimono sleeve and tied it around Sayo's left wrist to stop the bleeding, but it didn't work. He almost screamed, "Why did you do such a stupid thing? I never doubted you." Why? He stuck his nose deep into her hair and smelled the sweet shampoo she uses on her hair. Sayo, why did you? Just then, a limp hand touched his cheek, and when Madara turned around, he saw that his wife's eyes were half glazed over and that she was turning pale quickly. Sayo whispered, "Madara, I swear that you are the only person I love." Madara almost yelled, "I know that. I never had any doubts about you. Why did you try to kill yourself over something so stupid?" Sayo whispered, "It's true," and Madara's eyes got big. "I did sleep with Senju Hashirama. That's why I can't look you and myself in the eye after what I did." Before Madara could speak again, he couldn't even find his voice for a while. Why? He wouldn't do that for no reason. Did he force you? What did he do to you? Did he threaten you? Sayo gave him a weak smile and put her right hand on his cheek. Madara took hold of her right hand by the fingers. Sayo whispered, "I'm your wife. As your wife, it's my job to protect the clan and you." He said he would hurt you and bring down the clan. He said he would spread rumors that the Sharingan can control and summon demons. The Uchiha clan isn't very popular with the other shinobi clans. A rumor like that could ruin us. The only way to stop him from doing that was to sleep with him. That's what he said. That's why. Madara almost yelled, "You shouldn't have done that. I can handle him easily. I should be the one protecting you, not the other way around. Why did you do such a stupid thing, Sayo? Even you can't protect the clan's good name from him. He's the Hokage, and the Senju clan never liked us. If this is the only way to protect the clan then Sayo took a deep breath. But later, I can't face you after that." Sayo coughed hard. "And sorry, Madara. If my sins can only be washed away by death, then." Sayo pulled herself up with her last bit of strength and gave Madara a gentle kiss on the lips. This surprised Madara. Sayo coughed hard. "Sorry, it looks like I won't be able to keep my promise to you. It looks like I'll have to leave you alone after all." She gave him a weak smile and said, "I'll be waiting for you on the other side, with Sena and Izuna." Madara could feel tears welling up in his own eyes. "You're the only person I'll ever love," she whispered. "Becoming your wife is the only thing I've never regretted in my life. Goodbye, Madara." 10 months later, Konoha Hospital. Sakura-senpai, Nishimura Rin, who was almost 13 years old, poked her head into Sakura's office. Tsunade, who had been the head of the hospital, had just made Sakura the head of the hospital's accident and emergency department. Karu Shizune, who was her apprentice and also the niece of her husband, was now in charge of surgery. Rin then opened her eyes and almost turned white when she saw what was in front of her. Hansawa Sakura squeaked, "Our Rin." What are you doing here? Oh, wait, this isn't what it looks like. Headache Sakumo, too, was very embarrassed. After all, he had just been caught kissing a doctor in her office by the doctor's student. Rin was Sakura's apprentice because Rin had almost begged Sakura to be her apprentice after the war. Oh, well, I can see you're busy, so I'll just come back later, Rin said with a blush on her face. No. What is it, Rin? Sakura shrieked as she tried to get ready. Rin had to blink a few times before she remembered why she had come here. Hokage-sama is asking for you. Sakumo-sama, you too. Kakashi-kun had gone to get Hibiki-senpai and Kaiga-senpai, along with Dan-sama. Sakumo blinked. Neji-kun and Shikamaru-kun, along with Dan. He asked, giving Sakura a confused look. Even though they are young, the Hokage is getting all of Konoha's top ninjas together. This must be a big deal. Shikamaru is in charge of strategy in Konoha, and Neji is the next person in line to be Oinin commander. Sakura is one of the best doctors in Konoha, and Sakumo is the second in command of the Jounin forces, making him one of the best Jounin. Hi, said Rin with a nod. He told me to hurry. After the third Hokage told her everything, Sakura's head felt like it was spinning for the next 2 hours. Namikaze Minato was named the fourth Hokage right after the third Great Shinobi War ended more than a year ago. Everyone in the village knew that he had married Uzumaki Kushina, a Kunoichi from the Whirlpool country who Sakura, Neji, and Shikamaru knew was Seo's mother. The third Hokage said that when Senju Hashirama started Konoha, he gave the Bijus to the other countries as a way to make peace. But he kept the Kyuubi for Konoha because it was the strongest of the tailed beasts. But after Konoha's seal's mistress, Uchiha Seo, left the village, there was no one with her skills left to strengthen the seals holding the Kyuubi in place. Senju ni Uzumaki Mido had no choice but to seal the Kyuubi in herself. But when Uzumaki Kushina was close to dying, about 15 years ago, she was brought to Konoha to be the next host for the Kyuubi. But now that Kushina is very pregnant and close to giving birth, there are problems because the Kyuubi seal is greatly weakened when a female Jinchuriki is giving birth. This also explains why many of Konoha's best ninjas were in the home of Namikaze Minato, and Namikaze Kushina as Sarutobi Hijun went over the plan for that night. Minato told Hijun, Dan is getting everything ready for the birth tonight. Hijun nodded. Hijun told Sakura, Sakura will be here as the medic because Tsunade is busy with an emergency surgery at the hospital, and both she and Shizune are tied up there, and Sakura agreed. He looked at Kushina and said, Shikamaru-kun and Neji-kun know a little bit about seals, so they will also help us. The Oinin commander, Taji, and my wife, Biwako, will also go with you. Nothing will be told to anyone. Kushina leaned in close to Sakura and said, Hey, Sakura. Sakura was almost taken aback by this move. She was the nurse in charge of Kushina's checkups at the hospital, and because of that, they became close friends. Does it hurt as much as they say it does? Sakura's eyebrow went up. Kushina makes her think of Seo when she was young. Well, it hurts. Sakura almost got a headache from how loud Kushina was screaming. She was helping Biwako give birth while Kushina was screaming her lungs out. With the help of Neji and Shikamaru, Minato, the pale-faced Yondaime Hokage, is trying to keep the seal stable. I've never seen her cry out in pain like that before. Do you really think she'll be okay? Biwako huffed, of course. Well, you just watch the Kyuubi seal. But, oh, come on, you're the Yondaime Hokage, said Sakura. Don't just stare at me like that. This much pain would kill a man, but women are strong. Just then, Kushina's screams got louder and faster, and Shikamaru grunted as he put his chakra into the seal on Kushina's belly. He thanked Seo over and over again in his mind for getting him to study seals with her for the 100th time. Neji knew about seals because he was trying to figure out how to get rid of the branch seal on his forehead. Neji yelled at Minato, Minato-san, the seal. Keep an eye on the seal. Minato snapped back to attention. Hi. Shikamaru grunted. Damn, the Kyuubi is trying to get away. Neji turned his head quickly toward the entrance of the cave they were in. He frowned because he thought he had heard something. Taji and a few of the top Oinins were standing guard outside in case there was trouble. Neji has always been a sensor type of ninja, and he is very sensitive to changes in chakra. Shikamaru yelled at Neji, what is it? Pay attention to the seal. Right, Sakura said, I can see the head. One more time, Kushina. Then, not even a few seconds later, a baby's cry filled the air, and Kushina breathed heavily. Then Minato stopped working on the seal. The Yondaime Hokage was smiling goofily as he watched Sakura hold a baby with a red tuft of hair on her head and clean her up before wrapping her in a blanket that Biwako had given her. Congratulations, Minato-san, Kushina, said Sakura with a smile. The baby girl is healthy. Minato smiled and said, haha. I'm a dad, Kushina said. Takara, as Sakura gave her the baby. I get to see you at last. Everyone there missed the shocked looks Sakura, Neji, and Shikamaru gave each other when they heard the baby's name. Shikamaru then grunted as he added more to the seal he had already made. He grunted, "Hey, Minato-san, don't be a bother and help me out here." The lion. Oh, yeah. Just then, Neji stiffened up and threw a kunai at the same time that someone groaned in pain and fell to the ground. Neji stood between Kushina and the stranger with a kunai ready and asked, "Who's there?" Minato's eyes widened when he saw the two prone forms at the feet of the cloaked individual who was all covered up in a black hood from head to toe. By Wako, Taji, Shikamaru, Minato-san, continue your work on the seal, Sakura ordered before picking up the baby with one arm, with the other readying a kunai, standing by Neji's side. Who are you? How did you slip past the barrier? You call that a barrier? The intruder questioned smugly. Well, whatever. I'm here for the Kyuubi. He glanced towards Kushina, pulling out a long silver chain from within his pocket, and Minato's eyes narrowed when he spied a raven pendant hanging from the end of it, with the claws of the raven clutching onto a blood-red gem. Time to wake up, Kyuubi no Yako. Kushina's screams intensified just then, and Shikamaru cursed to himself. Shit, the seal. There was a sudden burst of chakra that nearly blew everyone over, and Sakura trembled when she felt that malicious chakra. It is just like that time when Seo had nearly lost control of the Kyuubi when facing Orochimaru. Shit. Minato cursed for the first time in his life. The Kyuubi. Kushina breathed and panted heavily, and Sakura was quick to go to her side to tend to her. Sakura had examined Seo enough times in the past to know just how the seal on her works. Kushina's Jinchuriki seal isn't as tight as Seo's, and thus she wouldn't die if the Kyuubi is ripped from her. Something that Sakura doesn't know is a good or a bad thing. But for now, Sakura is glad for it, as it meant that she has a high chance of actually remaining alive. Minato-san, go after the Kyuubi. Neji, you too. I'll look after Kushina with Shikamaru. We'll be right there with you as soon as we got Kushina stabilized, Sakura stated, her hands already glowing green with healing chakra. Minato bit on his lip before nodding. I'm leaving it to you. Outskirts of Konoha, Fire Country. Uchiha Seo narrowed her eyes beneath the cloak that she is wearing, and her fists tightened by her sides. Kyuubi, she muttered. Damn you to hell, Hashirama. You and your organization too. Hyor. In the distance, the Kyuubi roared in fury. Give me a break, guy. A very annoyed Headache Kakashi turned and glared at his self-proclaimed rival, with Nishimura Rin giggling away next to him. He then stiffened and turned his attention towards the sky. What the? Hey, Rin, guy. Do you guys feel something weird? The air feels kind of cold, Rin admitted, wrapping her arms around herself. What are you both talking about? Hijun-sama, Headache Sakumo spoke, having felt that ominous presence. This feeling. Did the seal break? Dan wondered. But Minato and Neji were there, and on top of it, Shikamaru was there as well. Did it break even with all three of them there? Hijun frowned. Dan, gather the forces. Get everyone who can fight out there. Dan nodded. On it. I won't let you do this here. A very pissed Namikaze Minato declared, forming a seal with his fingers, standing atop the Hokage monument as he faced the Kyuubi. You are high on something if you think that a technique of that magnitude can do anything against the Kyuubi. Minato turned sharply only to see the man from earlier. You. Who are you? What is your motive? My motive. Destroy Konoha, he declared. You. Stop. Minato and the hooded man turned only to see a hooded figure standing atop the head of the fourth Hokage. When did she get there? She, Minato is sure that it's a she at least, raised her head, and Minato could only see the shadowed part of the lower half of her face. You. She turned towards the hooded man. Are you from Raven's Gate? The man stiffened. If you knew about us, then you must be. Saw. Who knows? The girl said nonchalantly. She then glanced at Minato. Can I leave you to deal with him? I'll handle the Kyuubi. Minato nodded slowly. Oh, of course. Minato-san. All three heads turned towards the source of the voice only to see Sakura and Shikamaru running towards them at top speed. Beneath the cloak, Seo narrowed her eyes upon the sight of those two. They seemed familiar to her somehow. Who are you? Sakura demanded upon catching sight of Seo, readying a kunai. Wait, she's not an enemy. Minato waved his hands. Seo snorted. I'll leave you to it. Sakura's eyes widened when she recognized that voice. Wait, she shouted, and Seo stopped in her tracks. That voice. Seo, is that you? Seo. Seo narrowed her eyes. Who is this girl? As the sound of the Kyuubi's roars reaches her ears, Seo turned her attention back towards the fox demon. I'll leave you to it. Madara. I disappeared from this world as if withering at long last. Untired. The future of the shinobi world. I'm entrusting it to you. I wanted to believe in the future that you could bring. It's too bad that I couldn't live to see it. I want to see him for the last time. Can you hear me? Won't you please wake up for me? Everyone's waiting. They need you. It's time to wake up. Seina, in a hospital room in Tsukigakure no Sato, fingers twitched, and a pair of eyes blearily blinked opened. Where is this? Seo tilted her head to one side as a strong chakra blast from the Kyuubi blew past her, amidst all the shouts from the leaf ninjas currently throwing jutsu after jutsu at the gigantic fox demon. Dear me, Seo muttered. Your power is strong, but looks like it's true that without a vessel, your true power can't be truly unleashed. The redhead glanced at the fox demon. Time to go home, Kyuubi. She then formed a series of long and unfamiliar hand seals. Fuinjutsu, time-space warp, gate of hell. What is that? Shikamaru stuttered, staring with wide eyes at the gigantic black gates that had appeared from out of nowhere, with a pair of skeletons adorning the gates. The gates of hell. The hooded person whom they were all fighting narrowed his eyes. She really is. So she's still alive. She's the only person who I could think of that can use seals to this level. Who is she? Minato demanded. I have no obligations to answer you, Yellow Flash, said the man. In fact, before I go, I'll give you a hint as to her identity. She is the person who had developed seal studies to the level it now is. He then leapt out of the way of Neji's strike. Fear not, we'll see each other again. Then, he was gone. First, person who had developed seal studies to how it now is. Minato frowned. His eyes then widened. Uchiha, Seo, Sekura and Neji exchanged worried looks. Seo winced as the chains dragged the Kyuubi into the gates, roaring, before the gates then slammed shut and disappeared. The redhead nearly fell to her knees at that. A fuinjutsu of this level takes a lot out of her, especially if she is banishing the king of the demons straight to hell itself. It had taken her nearly 10 years to complete this technique after all, as an effort to deal with the bijus who should never have been allowed to exist in this world. Not for the first time, Seo cursed Senju Hashirama inwardly. Damn, it sure is difficult to deal with that fox, Seo muttered, panting heavily as the cheers from the leaf nins went up all around her. But if the fox is this strong, then I guess I shouldn't be surprised that you're that difficult to deal with after all. After all, if your mother is this powerful, then you shouldn't be any different. Seo opened a portal to return to Tsuki. Isn't that right, Hyor? The office of Tsukigakure no Sato. I see, said Madara with a sigh in his office, fingers curled before his mouth. I guess it's a good thing after all that you went there to take a look. Who knows what would have happened if the Kyuubi is allowed to go on a rampage. But looks like Raven's Gate is making their move at last, said Seo seriously. About damn time. They've stayed dormant for more than 50 years after all. Madara sighed before getting up from behind his desk. Well, we'll worry about it when the time comes, he said. He then turned serious. Seo, the medics told me some things earlier when you were out. Seo raised an eyebrow in curiosity. Seina has woken up, he stated. Seo's eyes widened in shock. What? Uchiha Seina cursed to herself, damn. Which was probably the first word she had said in about 50 years. She had just tripped and fallen again, which seemed like the 50th time in the last hour. By this time, she was covered in sweat from head to toe as she gritted her teeth and grabbed the bars to pull herself up. These bars are a kind of tool that helps people learn how to walk again after they have lost the ability to do so. Seina stumbled a bit as she put both feet back on the carpeted floor, but she was glad she didn't fall over again. But whatever little happiness Seina might have had didn't last long. When she took one more shaky step forward, this moment was over. Seina fell like a couple of dominoes, and this time, as she went down, she hit her head on the bars. Seina said every bad word she knew, and maybe even a few she made up on the spot, as she rubbed the bump on her head and tried to get back up. Uchiha Seo, who was outside the rehabilitation room, watched everything happen with despair. The room had a one-way mirror that let people outside look in, but not the other way around. Seo wasn't surprised when Seina turned her down every time she offered to help her with her rehabilitation training when she first started. Seina has always been very stubborn, like almost all Uchihas, and she hates admitting that she needs help with anything. Also, Seina is probably still trying to figure out what Madara and Seo told her almost 2 weeks ago about everything that has happened since her coma and the fact that she has been in a deep coma for about 50 years. Seo was the only person Seina had ever let help her. That was when Seo offered to cut Seina's hair so that it fell just below her shoulder blades. Seo and Madara have since started bringing Seina solid food to help her get her strength back up so she can at least try to get better. But even Seo couldn't deny that their once strong friendship had changed. And she's not shocked. Sana has been in a coma for more than 50 years, but from her point of view, it seems like she just fought Senju Hashirama a few days ago. Then she woke up and found that it had been over 50 years since that day and that almost everyone she knew was already dead. Even her son and husband have both passed away. And when she woke up, she found out that everything she and her clan had fought for had been for nothing because their most hated enemy and rival clan, the Senju clan, had forced them to submit to their rule. She woke up to find that the world had changed a lot since the last time she remembered it, and for some strange reason, she couldn't really die of old age anymore. Seo knew Sana well enough to know that she should leave her alone for a few days so that Sana could get her bearings and figure out her own thoughts. Seo finally couldn't take it any longer as she watched Sana fall again and again. She ran quickly to the door of the rehabilitation room and opened it. As Sana was trying to pull herself up, she walked toward her. Seo grabbed Sana by the arm and helped her stand up. Sana grabbed the bars and looked at Seo for a moment before turning her head away again. She yelled, "I said I don't need any help. I'm not that weak to actually need your help to walk." Seo blinked when she heard Sana's voice and realized that it was full of shame, anger, and frustration. Shame that she couldn't even do something as simple as walk. She was angry and upset that so many things had changed since she had last thought about it. Seo was quiet for a while before she looked at Sana. Seo grabbed Sana by the shoulder and turned her around so she wouldn't try to walk again. She made sure to grab her arm so she wouldn't fall over again. When Sana turned around, she was surprised to look right into Seo's eyes. She'd never seen Seo's eyes look like that before. Seo has never had such a look on her face, not even when several of their clan members died in a battle with the Senju clan and their bodies were brought back. She is also a ninja, the same as Sana, Izuna, and Madara, just like everyone in the clan. When she had chosen to be a ninja, she had long accepted the fact that deaths and sacrifices are something that is bound to happen in their line of work. That's why Sana chose to be a medic nin and Seo chose to be a tactician in the first place. The simple fact alone that they have both seen and witnessed for themselves the sacrifices of so many lives, both comrade and enemy. People are cruel, that's a fact. Ninjas can be even more cruel, though. Seo and Sana knew this best because they were both tacticians and doctors. Human nature only proves that people can only realize the true value of what is most precious to them when they've lost it. Seo can't speak for Sana, but she chose to be a tactician for this reason. It's just that small, simple desire to stop more people from dying. Seo looked at Sana with eyes that were both angry and sad. They were the eyes of someone who had been through many wars and battles and killed as many people as she had saved. Seo snapped, "Damn it, Sana, just listen to me." This caught Sana off guard. This is the first time she had seen or heard Seo curse or even come close to losing her patience and temper. Of the four of them, Seo is the most patient of their lot. She has to be. She is a tactician after all. And to be a tactician means lots of waiting as their enemy makes their move before she makes her next move. Look, I can't say I know what you're going through now because I still had Madara with me, and I've seen how the world has changed with my own eyes. But I'll be damned if I lose you too. I didn't wait over 50 years for you to wake up only to have you die right after you did. Seo said harshly. I promised Izuna that I'd protect you. I couldn't save him, but the least that I could do is to make sure that you live at least. There was a very long silence after that, and Sana turned her head away. If I had to deal with this when I woke up, I wish I had never woken up, she muttered. You should have killed me while I was still sleeping. At least then I could have seen Izuna and Haru again where I'm going. Seo said, I've thought that before, and Sana turned around to face her. But later, I decided I couldn't do it. I want you to see for yourself how much the shinobi world has changed. I want you to see how much your son did for the clan and how much it has grown since then. But more than anything, I want to see you open your eyes again and keep living, no matter how hard it is. You can hate me. You can hate Madara. I wouldn't blame you for it. We are partially to blame for Izuna's death after all. But I can't let you hate yourself or even let you give up on yourself. Too many lives have been lost. I can't let you become another one. Sana was silent for a long time. She finally said, I'm sorry. It's just that, when I woke up, the world was different than when I went to sleep. For all I know, I might as well be dreaming. I know, said Seo with a sigh. But at least get your strength back. We'll need your help to deal with Raven's Gate. Sana looked. Raven's Gate. Seo hit her head on the inside. She had forgotten that Sana was already unconscious when those men attacked. She wouldn't know who they are. The redhead sighed and got ready to hear a long story. This will take a while. Sayo walked down a familiar path through the hospital after her short talk with Sana. She was too busy thinking about Sana to notice how the doctors, nurses, and medics were bowing to the wife of their village leader. Sayo's feet finally led her to a part of the hospital where only the most serious emergencies or even care for enemies were allowed. 2 members of Moon, which is like the ANBU in Konoha, were standing guard at the entrance. When Sayo walked in, they both gave her a polite nod. Due to the sensitive nature of some cases, only the most skilled doctors and medic nins were allowed in the restricted area, which was very quiet. Finally, Sayo stood before a cream-colored door with the silver plaque on it with the red word 609 inscribed across it, and pushed the door open, entering the room. 1 doctor and 1 medic nin were both present in the room, alongside a nurse who was writing something in a clipboard, standard procedure for every patient in the restricted section of the hospital. All 3 looked up as Sayo entered, and they bowed respectfully to her. "Sayo-sama," the doctor said as he looked at the sleeping patient on the bed. Bandages covered half of his body, and bandages covered the right side of his face, just like Danzo did when he lost an eye in a battle when he was young. Sayo asked, "How's it going?" "Well, the seal that you've placed on him to keep him unconscious for the past 6 months or so had been working so far," said the medic nin, glancing up at Sayo even as her hand glowed with green healing chakra. "Resetting and regrowing all the broken bones on his right side will take a long time, and using the structure and DNA from his left eye to rebuild his missing right eye will take even longer." Sayo sighed. She said under her breath, "I really have to thank Shin for this. If he hadn't been passing through the forest and felt the faint lingering chakra in that collapsed cave, this boy would have died without anyone knowing he was still alive in there. Thanks to Sayo-sama, we have much better medical knowledge in Tsuki than anywhere else," the nurse said. "We can probably take the seal off him in another year or so once all his bones are back to normal, and his eye had completely regrown itself." Sayo nodded silently, not taking her eyes off of the slumbering 12-year-old asleep on the bed, with bandages covering the entire right side of his body and face. If it were any other village, this boy would have already died before the first day. Like Konoha, Tsuki uses seals in most emergency treatments, but theirs are more advanced because Sayo is always adding new methods and ways to their medical registry and books. Madara also made it a rule that all medical staff must attend lectures and training sessions every 3 months to keep their skills up to date. Even Senju Tsunade, who had now gained quite a reputation for herself as the world's foremost medical specialist, would probably drool at all the medical facilities, methods, and treatments that they have in Tsuki. And it helped that Tsuki no Kuni had a lot of medicinal herbs and plants. Several of the other villages often did trading or purchasing of those herbs and plants from them, though Madara controlled that aspect quite strictly so as not to damage the ecosystem. Sayo didn't even notice when the other 3 people in the room with her politely left because they had to see other patients. The redhead moved closer to the bed until she was standing on the side of it and looking at the face of the sleeping child. In this weak state, he looked so innocent and at ease, and Sayo's lips twitched a little because he reminded her of Madara when he is asleep. Sayo said, "You sure had the devil's luck in you. If Shin hadn't been passing by, no one would have known you were in there, and you could still have been saved. But I never thought Shin would save another uchiha." Sayo smiled and walked toward the door, ready to go on her next mission to the now destroyed land of ice in search of a rare ice flower that is said to have amazing healing powers. "When you wake up, Uchiha Abido, I'd love to hear all about the Uchiha clan from you." Headquarters of a NBU roots, Kano Hagakure no Sado. Shimura Danzo had always prided himself on his emotional self-control. That had been the first thing that his teacher had drilled into his head, that no matter what he is feeling, he must never wear his emotions on his sleeve. This is one reason why Sarutobi and his 2 other teammates have never won a poker game against him when they were younger. But right now, Danzo's everlasting calm was breaking as he looked at his kuhai with a face that made it look like Orochimaru had just grown 2 new heads. Danzo groaned to himself, palming his face, and Orochimaru grinned sheepishly, scratching at his cheek with 1 finger idly. "I must say that you're either crazy or you had just gone nuts, or maybe even both," Danzo stated bluntly. "Orochimaru, I know you miss Sayo-sensei and wanted to see her again because she raised you almost as much as I did before I took over. But you don't have to pretend to be a missing nin to find sensei." When he heard that, Orochimaru's face turned serious. "Shimura-sensei, you and I both know that almost the whole village, except for the Uchiha clan and maybe Jiraiya, thinks that Sayo-sensei and Madara-sama are traitors. Big ones, since they killed the Shodaime. If I tell Sarutobi-sensei that I want to look for one of the 2 most famous traitors in Leaf history, do you really think he'll let me go?" And even if, before Danzo sighed, there was a long period of silence. He said more than asked, I can't make you change your mind, can I? Orochimaru shook his head. It's true that I have a lot of ways to make you look like a famous missing nin. But do you realize how many people you'll hurt by doing this? Anko-chan, Jiraiya, Tsunade, Hijin, and maybe even Itachi-kun. Something just doesn't feel right to me. Orochimaru admitted. Sensei showed up at the camp during the war. Then almost 2 months ago, during the Kyuubi attack. I don't know all the details, but Jiraiya told me what Minato had told him. He said that a strange man let the Kyuubi out of Kushina, and if it weren't for Hansawa's medical skills and Kaiga's sealing ability, Kushina would have died. And that strange nin who had forced the Kaiu. Before he sighed, Danzo was quiet for a long time. I get it, he finally said. I'll fulfill your request. But Seo-sensei wouldn't be happy. She told me to look after you. And you hadn't seen her when she is angry. Orochimaru. Oh, well, that's too bad for her. Unknown location. Kori no Kuni. This is it. Seo muttered to herself as she bent down and carefully dug around the snow-covered ground around the flower that she is searching for, placing it in a special chakra-enforced container that she had brought with her so that the flower doesn't wilt. During the first Great Ninja War, 30 or 40 years ago, the Land of Ice was destroyed. Since then, there have been many stories about this place. Most people didn't know, though, that the Land of Ice was a treasure trove of rare minerals and even rare flowers with amazing healing powers. Seo is now looking for a rare flower with healing powers. She wants to study it carefully to see if the flower's healing powers can help Sana and Abido in any way, and if it is even possible to reproduce this flower in Tsuki no Kuni. Seo then pushed the coat sleeve of her left forearm upwards, revealing several strange-looking black seals that looked rather like tattoos in the forms of swirls, lines, and even patterns. Each line or pattern is actually a picture of one seal. Among those seals are storage seals, even Fuin Jutsu for some of her favorite techniques so that she doesn't have to form the hand seals to perform that jutsu, and even summon seals for her summon wolves. With a sigh, Seo focused some chakra onto an empty storage seal, and with a poof, the container that contains the ice flower vanished. Seo then straightened herself up. Well, let's go home, she said in a low voice. But before the redhead could even open up a portal to transport herself back to Tsuki, her eyes widened and she spun around towards the direction where she could see several snow mountains, and by the looks of things, a blizzard is also starting to pick up. She could feel a faint chakra signature coming from that direction. Seo usually ignores things like that, but she didn't this time because she knew that chakra signature. Orochimaru shivered violently as a particularly strong wind blew past him. He tried to keep warm by wrapping his arms around his torso, but it didn't work. He was only wearing his Jounin uniform, which is better for a warm place like Fire Country than a frigid place like the Land of Ice, where it looks like a blizzard is about to hit him. Even the Snake Summoner didn't know how he got here in the first place. Danzo did his job a little too well, so he was chased by almost all of the ANBUs and Jounins in the village, including his best friend and teammate. He used his Shunshin no Jutsu, putting as much chakra as he could into it, to get out of Fire Country. But the next thing he knew, he was in the Land of Ice. His muscles are starting to lose their feeling, and Orochimaru could barely feel his nose or even his ears, a bad sign, as that probably meant that he is slowly developing frostbite. So cold, Orochimaru mumbled as he wrapped his arms around his middle, but it didn't help. So cold. Sensei. A faint image of a smiling redhead appeared in his mind, stretching her hand out to him, just like the time when he had first followed her when his village was destroyed by bandits. Seo-sensei, where are you? I want to see you. Sensei. Orochimaru almost sounded like the scared little boy he had been when Seo first brought him to the Leaf Village. The Snake Summoner then fell on his face onto the snowy ground, and his legs went numb. Sensei. As darkness slowly overtakes his mind, Orochimaru could have sworn that he heard a faint crunching sound of snow beneath boots. Orochimaru woke up again feeling warm and happy. For a moment, he didn't know why, but then he realized that at least 3 thick blankets were covering his body, and he could hear the faint crackle of flames. He then slowly opened his eyes and saw what looked like the ceiling of a cave, where shadows were dancing on the ceiling and walls. You're finally up, someone said. When Orochimaru turned around, he saw a redhead he knows sitting on an upside-down crate and poking the fire in front of her with a stick. Fish and birds were roasting over the fire. You gave me quite a scare when I found you. I thought that I would be too late. Frostbite had literally set in every inch of your body, and it took me over 3 hours to thaw you out. And what the hell do you think that you are doing, coming into the Land of Ice with such thin clothing on? Orochimaru. Uchiha Seo glanced at Orochimaru disapprovingly. I didn't teach you to be so reckless. Shinobis are devious. Shinobis are cunning. And Shinobis are subtle. Kindly explain to me just how such reckless actions are wise. Orochimaru sat up and looked at Seo for a long time without saying anything. He was uncomfortable when he realized that he was only wearing a pair of pants and that his other clothes were hanging from a makeshift clothesline above his head. Sensei. Seo smiled gently at Orochimaru. Orochimaru, it's been a long time, she said. She got up and knelt down in front of Orochimaru, putting one head on the top of his head and looking him in the eye like she always did when he was a kid. But like always, you're such a crybaby, she muttered, wiping away the tears pooling around his eyes with her thumb. It was cute when you were a little kid, but it looks strange now that you're an adult. Stop crying. Ninjas don't cry over anything. Orochimaru smiled weakly at Seo. As always, Sensei is as harsh as always, he muttered. I never thought you were dead, but why did you leave, teacher? Seo jerked her head back before closing her eyes and then opening them again. Well, we have our reasons, she said at last. She then looked at Orochimaru. Orochimaru, will you hear me out? I need your help with something. ANBU Roots Headquarters. Kano Hagakure no Sato. Shimura Danzo was slowly falling asleep in his chair while reading about the new recruits for Roots. A light tap on his window woke him up with a start. The Roots commander then turned towards his window only to see an eagle tapping at the window with its beak, a scroll tied to the tube around its right leg. Huh? A message? Danzo frowned as he got up and let the eagle in, untying the scroll from its leg before watching the eagle flew off. Doesn't seem to be Konoha's. We use pigeons for bird messengers, not eagles. Danzo then shrugged slightly before checking the scroll carefully for any booby traps and whatnot. He is the Roots commander after all. Not everyone wanted him to live to a ripe old age. Finally, Danzo opened the scroll when it doesn't seem to have any traps, and his eyes widened slightly when he recognized the elegant handwriting immediately. Danzo, looks like I've taught you a little too well. You actually succeed in making Orochimaru look like the most famous missing nin in the world, so no one would guess that he went looking for Madara and me. Don't worry, he's with me now, though I'll be asking him to do a little job for me. I won't tell you where we are right now as there is no telling if this letter will fall in the wrong hands. But first things first, Orochimaru told me everything that had happened ever since I've left the village. Danzo, I'm proud of you. You did everything that you could to protect the village and the people within, even nearly crippling yourself when doing so. Never believe what others would say, as long as you yourself knew that your conscience is clear, and that you've done nothing to make others believe otherwise. ANBU Roots has always been a secret group in Konoha that takes on the dirtiest and most dangerous missions that would never be done in public. It doesn't matter what the council says. Even they have to know that Konoha needs Roots to keep going. On to more important matters. A storm is coming, Danzo. Prepare yourself. Keep an eye on the Uchiha clan, too. I've heard scary news and rumors about them from both inside and outside of Orochimaru. And after the Kyuubi attack, the council is sure to be suspicious of them, since Madara is the only one besides Senju Hashirama who is known to be able to control the Bijus. When you're done reading this letter, throw it away and take care of yourself. Seo, Namikaze Minato, Kaiga Shikamaru, Hibiki Neji as well as Katu Dan, Nara Shikaku, Akamichi Chusa and Yamanaka Inoichi were all very confused. It had been nearly a year ever since the Kyuubi attack, and the rebuilding of the village is nearly done. The fourth Hokage is curious about the person who had just about saved the entire village, and the lives of his wife and child that night, and he didn't exactly make it a secret that he wanted to meet him or her, and to thank them. The reason why the 6 Jounins and 1 Hokage were confused is because of the fact that the famous White Fang of Konoha is currently fretting over something unknown, and running his fingers through his silver hair so many times for the past hour that it had all but stood up from his head. The White Fang of Konoha was one of Konoha's best. He was one of Minato's right-hand men, along with Katu Dan, who is in charge of the Jounin forces. Sakumo was made ANBU commander after the previous commander was killed by the Kyuubi, and he was also one of Minato's best friends, despite being at least 3 to 4 years older than Minato himself. After the Kyuubi attack, several ninjas have found themselves promoted hastily to fill in the empty positions left behind by their predecessors who have either passed away during the attack, or were simply too injured to continue as a ninja. With the death of the Oinin commander, Taji, Neji had been selected to fill the post, with Shikamaru being Konoha's head tactician, and Sakura being one of the top medics at the hospital. This is troublesome, Shikaku almost groaned, nursing a cup of sake. Okay, Sakumo-san, what's wrong? I've never seen you so upset before. Did Hansawa break up with you or something? Neji almost snorted in his cup of sake as he turned his eyes toward the head of Konoha's encryption unit. The head of the encryption unit, like most people in Konoha, was scared to see Neji looking at him with eyes that seemed to see, even though he had bandages on his eyes. Not likely, since Sakumo-san is the only guy Sakura dated for the longest time, and she couldn't stop talking about him whenever Shikamaru and I saw her. Okay, so she's not dumping you then, Shuza muttered before glancing over at the stressed-out White Fang. Then what's the problem? Sakumo said something to himself under his breath. Pardon? The engagement ring, Sakumo said in a voice loud enough for all the other jounin to hear. I have completely no idea what women's tastes are for things like rings. With Noriko, it is easy as she is a civilian, and the owner of the shop helped me with the ring selection then. But Sakura is a ninja and well. Hold on, Sakumo, Dan said, putting out his hand to stop him in the middle of his rant. The man looked confused. What ring? Sakumo muttered. An engagement ring, but didn't notice that two ninjas were passing by the sake stand where they were all standing. I'm going to ask Sakura to marry me this autumn. Inoichi's face started to smile. Good job, Sakumo-san. He yelled and patted Sakumo on the back. About damn time, I think. I know Sakura-san has been waiting for you to pop the question. And I know for sure that Yoshino, Yurika, and Eri were just about to give you a crash course in Kunoichi Interrogation 101 if you don't pop the question soon. Sakumo was about to say something, but a shout of Kakashi cut her off. When the Jounins turned around, they saw Nishimura Rin yelling after her silver-haired teammate, who was running away faster than anyone had ever seen a kid his age move, let alone a Jounin. Sakumo half got up from his seat, knowing that his son had never liked the fact that he is seeing the pink-haired medic who is the head of the A&E department of the hospital. Aside from his relationship with Sakura, it may also have something to do with the fact that Sakura was Team Minato's therapist after Uchiha Obaido died. Minato placed one hand on his shoulder just then, preventing him from getting up. Stay here while I talk to him. The fourth Hokage was then gone in a flash of yellow. He had to talk to and comfort a student who was upset. Minato found Kakashi where he thought that he'd be, at the civilian graveyard of Konoha where his 13-year-old student was sitting before his mother's grave, speaking to her. And then Dad came home last night, telling me that he intended to marry Sakura-san. I don't like it, and said so to Dad's face, and I thought that that is the end of the matter, but then Minato groaned. So Kakashi is jealous of the fact that he had to share his father's love with his potential new stepmother. The fourth Hokage knew Sakura personally, as she had been his wife's personal physician when she was still pregnant with his daughter, and she had also been the one that Tsunade had recommended to help with the birth that disastrous night when both the blonde medic and her dark-haired apprentice have to both assist with a tricky case concerning chakra transfusion that night. Even before that, after Obaido died, Sakura was the team's counselor and doctor. Rin looked to the medic with pink hair as a kind of surrogate mother or sister because her own family had died fighting Iwa while she was still in the academy. After that, Sakura had taken Rin on as her apprentice, and Minato had seen for himself just how much Rin had improved in skill, and how much she had grown as a person, becoming more confident in herself. I hate to say this, Kakashi, but don't you think that you're being a little too selfish here? Minato stated bluntly as he walked up to his student, his cape fluttering around his legs in the wind as he did so. Sensei, Kakashi muttered sullenly, turning away from his teacher. And what do you mean by that? Hainsawa-san has no right to replace my mother. I won't accept her. Minato groaned. For once, he wished that Kushina is here with him, helping him with his stubborn student. Kushina could always manage to make Kakashi see things the way she wants to, though sometimes she has to resort to a few smacks here and there. I don't think that Sakura has any intention to replace your mother, said Minato patiently. No one can replace your mother, Kakashi. Noriko-san is Noriko-san, and Sakura is Sakura. They are two different people. Also, if it makes you feel better, I had to push Sakumo towards Sakura when he tried to reject his own feelings for her. Sakura tried to hide from him for 2 weeks after that, but Neji and Shikamaru made her meet him. And then, well, he made a motion with his hands. Things just happened from there. I think that Tsunade and Dan actually had some part to play with them both getting together after that. But Minato got down on one knee and looked at the gravestone he was sitting in front of before turning to face his student. Kakashi, I have been around your age, maybe even a little younger when my own father had died, he said simply, and Kakashi turned to face his sensei. I remembered how lonely my mother had been then. A few years later, just before I became a genin, she passed away due to loneliness. He sighed. I remembered thinking that if maybe, just maybe, if my mother had only opened her heart and let someone else in, she wouldn't have died. My mother is quite a beauty, and plenty of men fell at her feet. But she refused to let anyone into her heart. Sans for my father. I miss my father, of course, and I also knew that no one could replace him. But I also know that I wouldn't have minded in the least if my mother did remarry. She deserves to be happy. Minato turned to face a guilty-looking Kakashi, the same way that Sakumo deserves to be with someone that he is happy with. Your mother has been dead for over a decade. I'm sure that Noriko-san wouldn't have minded even if your father remarries. But, Minato groaned. Kakashi's Sakura wouldn't be replacing your mother, he said patiently. Besides, you do know her personally. It's not like your father will be marrying a complete stranger. Sakura is your teammate's teacher and also your medic and psychiatrist. You do know her well, don't you? Well, yes, Kakashi mumbled. And is she a nice person? Someone whom you could see that your father will be happy with for the rest of his life? Minato prompted. Well, yes, Kakashi reluctantly answered. Minato asked with a raised brow, then what's the problem here? He shook his head. Sakura wouldn't replace your mother. Since you're older than her, I think you think of her more as a sister anyway. Your father loved you and her in different ways, so it's not like you'll have to share him. Sakumo is still young, Kakashi, barely bordering on 30. Do you really want him to spend his last years as a lonely old man? You will grow up, Kashi. You won't always be there with him. You will have your own life to lead after that. Sakumo deserves to be happy, Kakashi, and I know that Sakura will make him happy. Do think about it. Besides, I think that Noriko-san will agree with me. Think about it. Minato left the graveyard, which gave Kakashi a lot to think about and a choice to make. 8 years later, district of the Uchiha clan. Are we all here? Uchiha Fugaku asked, glancing around at all the faces of all the Uchiha ninjas in the clan, all assembled in the shrine area where they have always held their secret meetings. Uchiha Shisui held up his hand and looked like he was sorry. No, Fugaku-sama, Itachi isn't here, he said with some doubt. Whispers started to break out across the room at that. The clan head called a meeting for all Uchiha ninjas. Why isn't the clan heir there? Fugaku frowned from his place. Itachi had been acting very strangely for days, and he seemed to be taking on as many missions as he could that could keep him away from the village for days at a time. In fact, Fugaku himself hadn't seen his elder son for nearly a week now. Let's just start without him, said Fugaku briskly, making a mental note to speak to his son the next time that he sees him. I'm sure that all of you here agrees with me that we had just about enough of how the council and the village had been treating the Uchiha clan ever since Madara-sama and Seo betrayal-samas of the village. I'll say that we should do something about that unjust treatment. Shouts of agreement went up at that, and one of Fugaku's best detectives looked doubtful at that. But Fugaku-sama isn't the fourth doing something about that. Fugaku looked weary at that. Yes, but even Minato could do so much, he stated. The Senju-leaning counselors, especially the civilian council and the Third's old teammates, have shot down every idea Minato had about how the Uchiha clan should be treated. They said that he was only doing this because I was his teammate, and the only clan to back him up is the Hyuga because Hayashi was my teammate as a genin. Plus, we didn't make any friends with our blood libel. Similar looks of outrage appeared on the faces of nearly everyone present. Fugaku-sama, are you saying that the village thinks that the Uchiha clan, which has been loyal to Konoha since the village was founded, brought the Kyuubi to Konoha almost 8 years ago? Asked one of Fugaku's cousins, who was so angry that he turned on his Sharingan without meaning to. At that, there were similar screams of anger. What did they do? They don't have evidence. We would do no such thing. Uchiha Mikoto, Fugaku's wife, frowned. Does the entire council, sans for the Hokage and Hayashi-sama, believes that and are against us? She asked quietly. The voices died down as every single pair of eyes went to Fugaku. The leader of the clan sneezed into his hand. No, Danzo-sama had been backing the fourth in his notions about the Uchiha clan. But you know of his rather shady reputation among the council, and thus his power in the council is minimal at best. He only has power and authority over the ANBU and the missions that our shinobis undertake. In other words, shinobi affairs. Several people in the clan looked sad about this. Even the person who had been helping them all along could do nothing about this. Uchiha Shisui sighed, massaging his temples to ease his headache. The clan should have paid attention to Madara-sama back then, he muttered. Fugaku-sama, what are the reasons behind Madara wish-samas to attack the Senju clan back then? Fugaku frowned. I'm not sure, because it wasn't written down in the clan records, he said. But it is stated that the Shodaime Hokage, Senju Hashirama, had done something against his wife. The clan head after Madara-sama, my own father, Uchiha Haruki, took a much more aggressive stand against the Senju clan after that, and after the first had died. but it was stated that Madara-sama and Sayo-sama left not long after the dispute that Madara-sama had with the clan council at that time, and the first went after them both. You know what happened after that? Grim nods were exchanged. The first died in that battle, and it is likely that Madara-sama did as well. The Nidaime and Madara wife, Sama's Sayo-sama, are the only ones who saw it. Mikoto sighed. She said quickly, anyway, we will try one more time to persuade the council to give the Uchiha clan its rights and power back in the council. If it fails again, she glanced at her husband uneasily. If it fails, we will have no other choice but to launch a coup against the village. Fugaku sighed. If truth be told, I really don't wish for it to end up that way, he admitted. But I don't want Sasuke to grow up the way that I did, the way that Itachi and all of you did as well, being suppressed and oppressed all the time. My father, Uchiha Haruki's era is an era otherwise known as the Uchiha clan's golden era, with the Nidaime's support. But after the death of my father, and then the handing of the Hokage seat over to the third, the Uchiha clan was then forced into a position that we are now in. I don't want any of our descendants to grow up the way we did. Silence fell after that. Finally, Uchiha Shisui put up his hand. Fugaku-sama, a question if you please. Fugaku nodded with a frown. If we ever went through with this coup, what of Itachi? Shisui questioned with a frown. He has been acting strangely of late. Fugaku sighed. I'll talk to Itachi, he said. I'll make him see things our way. All of you are dismissed. Do not let anyone learn of this meeting. His clan members nodded before leaving the room that they are in. Fugaku then frowned as he noticed one of the few kunoichis in the clan standing at the back sighing and placing 2 fingers at her forehead before disappearing in a quick shunshin. Who is that? He wondered. I've never seen her before, and I don't even remember seeing a Uchiha kunoichi with red hair. Uchiha Mansion, Tsukigakure no Sado. It was late at night, and most of the village was asleep sans for the few that were on guard duty at the sentry points of the village. One Uchiha Madara is also still awake, standing at the window in his bedroom, staring at the moon in the sky that gives their land its name of Tsuki no Kuni. His senses pricked up just then, and he turned around only to see the signs of a shunshin taking place in the middle of the room. And his wife soon appeared there, a serious look on her face. Madara sighed. Tell me what I need to know, he said briskly. Sayo nodded. I got a little worried about the rumors circulating around Konoha regarding the Uchiha clan, and the Kyuubi attack, and coupled with what Orochimaru had told me. She sighed. Well, I snuck into Konoha myself, slipping into a Uchiha clan meeting. Apparently, the clan decided that they had enough. They're only going to attempt just one more time for the Leaf Council to give them back their rights. If that fails, they're going to launch a coup on the village. Madara said nothing for several moments. A coup, huh? He mused. I knew they would do something like that sooner or later. Without Tobirama's support, the Senju-leaning counselors have taken the chance to put down the Uchiha clan. Sayo sighed. What are you going to do, Madara? She asked, walking towards the window and looking out of it. I mean, yes, we have 4 Uchihas here in Tsuki, with both Seina and Obito back to their own feet about 6 years ago. But we can't possibly house the entire Uchiha clan of over 400 in Tsuki. Tsukigakure is one of the great 6, after all. 4 Uchihas in our village. We might be able to avoid the eyes of Konoha. But an entire clan of over 400 disappearing from Konoha only to appear in Tsukigakure. Even Konoha is smart enough to put the pieces together. After Seina and Obito have recovered from their injuries and were able to function properly as ninjas again, Sayo had insisted for them both to move in together with them, as they have plenty of rooms in their house anyway. And as anyone who knew Sayo could tell them, you don't win an argument against Uchiha Sayo. Seina and Obito have been able to stay under the radar of Konoha and the other villages so far because they are 2 of the few Uchihas who can fight well without their Sharingans. But if they took in an entire clan of 400, no way would it slip under Konoha's notice. Madara sighed and nodded, agreeing with his wife. He said, I have no plans to help the clan anyway. Konoha or not, the Uchiha clan still belongs to the Leaf Village. Seina and Obito are both listed as Kia, so it is alright for them. Sayo nodded absently, barely noticing it as Madara came up behind her. She didn't realize it until she felt Madara's tongue lick the exposed skin on her neck. When she turned around, Madara pinned her against the wall next to the window with his body and pressed his lips to hers, with one hand in her hair and the other on the back of her waist. That's true in a sense. Sayo gasped slightly as Madara nipped gently at the skin on her neck. But the Uchiha clan is different. They are still citizens and ninjas of Fire Country, and they must follow the law set by the Lord, the Daimyo. No one is above the law. By trying to overthrow the Hokage, they have gone too far. Only the commanders of the Oinen and the ANBU are allowed to touch the Hokage. This is the law that I secretly made with the daimyo when Konoha was founded. Madara, you're moving too quickly. Madara laughed as he attacked Seo's neck, moving his hands all over her body as his mind raced. Seo was kind of right. When Konoha and the ANBU were first created, the first law Seo made was a secret law that only the commanders of the ANBU and the daimyo knew about. If the Hokage of Konoha ever left the path of good and went down the path of evil, and if the commanders of the Oinen and the ANBU thought that the Hokage was too far gone to be saved, it would be their job to kill the Hokage to get rid of the disease. That is the secret law of the ANBU, known only to the daimyo and the commanders of the ANBU and the Oinen. Even the Hokage won't know about this law. If the council turns down the Uchiha clan's request, which I think they will, what do you think they will do? Madara asked Seo as he thrust his tongue into her mouth, making her gasp. He whispered to her, what do you think the village will do? You know the laws of Fire Country like the back of your hand. What they're attempting to do is pure treason in itself. What do you think will the Hokage do? Seo muttered before she gasped, as Madara plunged his tongue back in, one hand tangling itself into her hair, tugging her head backwards before exploring the cavern of her mouth with his tongue. Get rid of the clan, Madara muttered as he moved away from Seo and looked at his wife with lustful eyes. But as the village is still recovering from the Kyuubi attack 8 years ago, they can't make this an official execution, or they'll probably risk civil war in the village itself. In that case, they'll probably make this out to be a horrible crime done by one of their own. Is that right? He asked, looking at his wife whose eyes were half glazed over. Why yeah, Seo gasped as she felt Madara's hand slipping within her shirt and snaking up her body, further arousing her. She whispered in his ear, politics are over, as she leaned into Madara, her body fitting perfectly into him as she wrapped her arms around his neck and pulled herself up slightly. She had a slight shiver when Madara touched her. Madara then kissed Seo more deeply as he pushed her back against the wall and pulled her closer to him, bringing their hips close together. Seo's eyes fluttered close as she was rendered helpless by his touches. Who do you think will the council send as their executor? Madara muttered huskily in her ear, even as he attacked her neck next. Gods, you're still as desirable and tasty as ever. Seo probably would have fallen to the ground at this point if Madara hadn't been holding her up. This isn't the first time they've done something intimate, but Madara never fails to make Seo feel the way she does every time they do something like this. Who better to send than one of their own? Seo muttered before she gasped as Madara slowly began pulling the bottom of the navy blue jounin uniform that she had been wearing up her body. His eyes burned with an unknown passion as he eyed the porcelain-like skin that he could see there with lust in his eyes. If that's true, then the council will only trust one Uchiha to do this dirty job and then call him a criminal. Uchiha Itachi, Madara stated. Seo nodded, and then she gasped as Madara touched the skin that was showing. Madara, please, Madara whispered into Seo's ear. Moan my name again, while licking her earlobe and putting one hand under Seo's shirt to caress the skin there. I like it when you do that. Seo gasped as Madara put one knee between her legs and pushed against the space between her legs with the other knee. You're sure passionate tonight, she moaned, as she couldn't even begin to describe the feelings overwhelming her at this moment. Madara smirked at this before he sucked on the tender skin of Seo's neck, his right hand sliding gently up her body beneath his shirt, feeling her light shiver beneath his touch, his hand resting against the fabric of her bra. He was slightly taken aback when he felt Seo's arms snaking down his body and pressing against his chest. Gods, Seo, what are you trying to do to me? He grunted, and Seo gasped as one hand slipped into her bra without warning. His cool fingers pressed against her breast, and his thumb circled around her nipple. Seo moaned as she put her head on his shoulder and Madara grunted. He had one arm around her waist and his other hand was in her shirt, but he took it out and pulled gently on the collar of her jounin uniform to get closer to her body. When Madara got sick of trying and failing, he easily picked Seo up and carried her to their bed, where he pinned her down and leaned over her with lust in his eyes. Madara, here comes the lemon scene. If you don't want to read, don't. I won't be blamed for any scars that are left behind. Madara smiled at her, and his eyes were full of desire. Shall we start work then? He purred, his hands moving all over Seo's body, exploring every inch of it gently, loving the little noises his wife made while she was under him. Seo gasped and her eyes fluttered shut in helplessness as she felt Madara's hands move from her hips to her chest. His hands found her breasts and began to fondle, caress, and knead them slowly. Madara, she cried out as her eyes fluttered shut in helplessness. "Oh gods," she moaned as Madara undid the first button on her Jounin uniform, revealing a good amount of cleavage. She then gasped when Madara gave up trying to unbutton her shirt and put his hands inside her shirt from the hem, kneading her breasts through the fabric of her bra. Madara smirked even as he leaned in closer to Sao, flicking his tongue out and licking at the skin in between her breasts. "You're sure impatient tonight," he grunted, slipping his hands under her bra without any warning, squeezing her breasts gently. Sao gave a light gasp and moaned, which made him happy. The redhead then slowly moved her body to match his. Madara soon felt a pair of hands trailing around his waist and pushing the hem of his shirt up, pushing it as far as it could go. Getting the hint from his wife, Madara undid his cape with one hand, tossing it to the ground, before pulling his shirt over his head, tossing it to the ground as well. The rest of his clothes were a mess, so he threw them on the ground and turned back to his wife. Then, Madara took off Sao's pants and threw them to the ground, which was quickly followed by her underwear. He then began to work at the buttons on Sao's Jounin uniform, finally managing to undo it all, and discarding it to the ground. Madara then leaned over and started sucking on her neck, feeling her breasts push against his bare chest. Not liking the feel of the fabric of the bra covering her breasts, Madara slipped one hand beneath Sao's body and unclasped the article of clothing, throwing it to the ground to join the pile of discarded clothing there. Sao gasped as he put one finger into her mouth and slowly added more fingers as he went along, slowly pumping her. "Oh gods," she moaned. "Madara, please." Madara laughed as he walked up to her door and stood there. "Looks like I'm not the only one impatient tonight," he teased, pushing in and out of Sao teasingly, yet never fully going into her. He then gave her a passionate kiss on the lips before pulling away. Madara then pushed himself hard into her without warning. Sao's eyes shot open as a sharp searing pain tore through her, letting out a scream of pain as she did so, with her wrists being pinned down onto the bed by the sides of her head by Madara. He then pulled away from her, only to push back in faster and harder each time. The redhead moved around under him because of the pain they both felt when they made love. Eventually, the pain lessened to a dull ache, and her breathing evened out as she did so. Sao cried out as Madara pushed himself into her again, and Madara grunted as he was used for all he was worth. "Madara." Sao gritted her teeth from the intrusion. "Please." Then Madara pulled away from Sao again and slammed back into her hard, making her scream in surprise and pleasure. Sao and Madara's bedroom was 3 rooms down the hallway. Uchiha Sana slowly opened her eyes, wondering what had woken her up from a nice dream with just her and Izuna, and what had made her dream of her and Izuna together in such a perverted way. She groaned and tried to bury her head in her pillows as she heard a soft scream. "Oh no, those two are fighting again," she muttered. "They are like rabbits." After Sana had fully recovered and moved in with Sao and Madara, she sometimes wished she hadn't agreed to it. This was especially true when Sao and Madara did one of their nightly activities. Sana then blushed when she remembered the time when Sao had been living with Izuna and her back during the time of the Shinobi clan wars, and many a time in the morning, she had seen Sao almost falling asleep into her breakfast. When Izuna asked her why she hadn't slept, the redhead would only say, "A pair of rabbits kept me up all night." Sana isn't as dense as her beloved and could understand what Sao had meant, but fortunately or unfortunately, Izuna didn't understand. "I think I understand what Sao had to go through now," Sana muttered. When she heard another scream, she groaned and made a single hand seal, putting up a jutsu to keep the noise out of her room. Happy that she could get a good night's sleep at last, Sana went back to sleep, wondering just how in the 9 layers of hell could Obito sleep through something like this, considering the fact that his room is just 2 rooms away from the master bedroom. Obito was lightly snoring in his own room. He was holding a stuffed bear that was almost as big as he was to his chest and had cotton wool in his ears. He grunted as he turned over. Not even a thunderstorm would be able to wake him up tonight. Back in the master bedroom, Madara smirked as Sao screamed for him again. He then started to quicken his pace, with Sao starting to move with him unconsciously. "Oh god, this feels so good." Sao thought breathlessly as Madara came into her again and again. "I want more." Almost as if he could read Sao's mind, Madara sped up and did her harder, making her scream with pleasure when he touched a spot that made her feel very lightheaded. "Gods," Madara grunted as her walls clammed down around him. "You're sure wild tonight, Sao." Madara then grunted as he quickened his pace, thrusting in and out of her, going faster and faster each time, both of them almost reaching their climax. But at the same time, he wanted more as he thrust in even deeper into her. Madara has to increase his strength to keep Seo's wrists pinned down as she writhed about beneath him, as they both climaxed at the same time, as Madara spilled his semen into her at the same moment when her walls clammed down on him. Seo let out a sigh as she fell back onto the bed, her eyes fluttering shut from exhaustion. "That felt so good," she muttered. Madara smirked before kissing her passionately on the lips, feeling her starting to return his gestures. "I'll never tire of this," he muttered as he broke their kiss. Ready for round 2. Headquarters of a NBU Roots, Konohagakure no Sado. It was a strange sight one Thursday afternoon when the Uchiha clan heir, Uchiha Itachi, could be seen by several of the Roots agents walking into a NBU Roots headquarters. But as it was known that Itachi had the Roots commander's favor, he was allowed to pass, and the 13-year-old made his way towards the office of Shimura Danzo himself, where the man was sipping his tea calmly, seemingly waiting for him. "Itachi-kun." Danzo nodded to Itachi as the young teen appeared at the doorway of his office, breathing heavily. His breathing hitched, and slight panic and fear could even be seen in his eyes. Danzo sighed inwardly. So they really did carry out that order, Danzo thought to himself with a scowl. "I'd like to blame the Leaf Council for this, but even I have to admit that this time the Uchiha clan is going too far, even though they were pushed to their limits. Sensei, what would you say if you knew that your clan had fallen to this?" Danzo pointed to the seat across from him and said, "Sit down and close the door behind you." Itachi did as he was told before dropping himself in the chair opposite Danzo, and the Warhawk was pleased to see that the young teen across him showed none of the weakness that most ninjas were prone to showing at this age. He hadn't seen a ninja with such talent ever since his teacher and Orochimaru. It's no wonder that even Orochimaru was interested in Itachi and wanted to take him on as an apprentice when he was old enough. But stuff did happen. Even now, the village still refused to believe that Orochimaru is now a traitor of the highest order, and the apprentice that Orochimaru had left behind, Mitarashi Anko, had now turned out to be a very angry young woman. The name Orochimaru was almost a taboo for her, but Danzo knew that the young woman was smart enough not to believe everything that everyone told her. She wanted to hear everything directly from her teacher. "So what is it?" Danzo asked calmly, though he knew just what Itachi had come here for. He had been at the meeting between the Fire Daimyo and the 4th Hokage that Hijin's 2 old teammates had asked for. Along with him, the commanders of Oinen and ANBU, Hibiki Neji and Hadake Sakumo, and their head tactician, Kaiga Shikamaru, were also at that meeting. That meeting is simple. They were simply reporting on what Itachi had reported to the Hokage about the planned Uchiha coup. Danzo already knew what the Fire Daimyo would say before he said it, because Itachi told him first before telling the Hokage. Danzo may have been protecting the Uchiha clan all these years because of his teacher and Uchiha Haruki, but even he knew where his priorities lie. Itachi didn't say anything for a while before he did. He said, "I don't think I have much of a choice here. The clan isn't going to budge at all, so I'll have to kill them myself." Danzo sighed. "I don't want to say bad things about our lord, but he must be high on pot if he thought that one person could kill an entire clan of Sharingan users without anyone knowing," he muttered. Itachi stared at Danzo with eyes full of hopelessness. "Danzo-san, don't you know how to get out of this?" he begged. "I really don't want to kill them if I don't have to. It's true that the clan has fallen from what it used to be, but..." Danzo sighed. "Itachi-kun, I promise you I don't want to kill your whole clan, but I don't have much of a choice," he said. "Why do you think I've been looking out for your clan all these years? An Uchiha was my teacher. She taught me everything I know about war strategies and tactics, and I promised her and your grandfather to take care of the Uchiha clan." Itachi looked like an owl when he saw this. "An Uchiha," he echoed. "That's right. You probably knew about her from your time at the academy," Danzo said in a serious tone. "The founder of the ANBU Corps as well as the developer of the ninja system and security system that we use in Konoha until today. She is also the first Seals Master ever known, and is also the legendary Kunoichi who is the only known summoner of the legendary Night Wolves." He looked at Itachi in the eye. "Her name is Uchiha Seo." Itachi looked as if he had just swallowed a lemon, an extremely sour lemon. He was able to say, "The first ANBU commander, and the legendary Kunoichi who had been one of the 4 founders of the village that the Uchiha clan worships as Kami-sama... is your sensei." Danzo nodded. "Yes, she and Madara-sama," he said in reply. They, not the Shodaime and Nidaime, made this village what it is now, he said with a scowl. After Madara-sama and Seo-sensei left the village for various reasons, Senju supporters jumped at the chance to cut the Uchiha clan out of running the village. Remember, it was the Senju clan that wanted to build Konoha, and the Senju and Uchiha clans had been rivals and enemies for generations before Konoha was built. I'd like to be on the Uchiha's side in this situation, but even I think they've gone too far this time. I wonder what Sensei would say if she knew about this. Senju Forest, Kono Hagakure no Sado. Itachi Uchiha looked sad as he watched the pigeon fly away from the forest near Konoha where he often trained. Unlike the rest of Konoha and his clan, he had never really believed that Uchiha Madara and Uchiha Seo are dead. Even if you ignore the fact that the latter showed up at one of the war camps during the war, the fact that someone stopped the Kyubai's rampage 8 years ago was a sign that they were involved. Their actions proved that they still cared for the village, or maybe just some of her inhabitants. So, this is why Itachi thought they would help him if the pigeon got to them. Itachi stiffened when a soft voice said, "You can't talk to Madara that way." How in the world did someone sneak up on him and not make him feel or hear anything? He spun around quickly, a kunai in one hand. He asked, "Who's there?" Itachi's eyes got big when a redhead came out from behind a tree at that moment. He had seen this kunoichi before, in a photo on Danzo's desk. Uchiha Seo asked, "You want to see Madara, don't you? I can help you." Tsukage's workplace. Tsukagakure no Sado. Seo nodded when Sena asked, "So this Danzo called you and told you about the coup and what the fire daimyo had told him to do?" On Sena's other side was seated Obaido, who had a frown on his face. Since the Iwa Nins almost killed him, the boy, who is now a young man, has grown and changed a lot. Sena groaned. "Damn Seo, I know I've said this before, but your predictions are always so accurate that it's almost scary." Obaido said, "I don't like to say bad things about my clansmen, but even I agree that they've been thinking they're gods since I was a kid. I remember Itachi. He was one of my younger cousins, and even when he was 4, he was smart and different from everyone else. I can see why the daimyo would choose Itachi out of all the Uchihas to do something like that," Obaido said with a frown. "If I were still in Konoha, I'm sure they would have told me to do the same thing. In recent years, there aren't many Uchihas who stay loyal to the village instead of the clan." Madara sighed. "Yeah, I figured that from the way you talk about the clan when you wake up," he said in a low voice. "And Danzo didn't seem too happy with them in recent years as well. And this Itachi," he smirked. "I never thought I'd see a good Uchiha in this generation," he said. Seo sighed. "I'm going to help him with this, no matter what it is," she said seriously. "If the Uchiha's current state is due to our actions in the past, then the only way to right this is to kill majority of them off, those with heads too big for their shoulders. The survivors can start a new Uchiha clan, one without our sins." "Survivors," Seo told them. Itachi wanted to leave his younger brother alive. "I agreed with him on one condition. If his brother didn't grow up the way that he wanted, I will end his brother's life myself. I'm planning to take Itachi and Totsuki. If Uchiha Sasuke don't turn out the way that we want, then a new Uchiha clan will bloom in Tsuki, one without our sins." She sighed. "The bloodline won't die out, but the clan name will in Konoha. First of all, I've never liked how the Uchiha clan put themselves under the Senju's control." 1 week later, Kono Hagakure no Sado. "This is the end," Seo muttered, cleaning the blood off her sword, leaning against the wall of one of the Uchiha houses near the western exit of the Uchiha district. The Uchihas had thought that they'd seen a ghost come back to life when they saw Seo and Obaido for themselves, and it is that element of surprise that had enabled the three of them to take out the entire clan of 400 by themselves. After it had all ended, Itachi had then asked Seo and Obaido to wait near the western exit whilst he showed himself to Sasuke. "I don't like them all that much myself, but it makes me feel ill to have to take the lives of my own kinsmen," Obaido muttered, looking quite green. "It makes me wonder how Itachi could even handle it." "Seo-sensei." Seo stiffened and spun around, before she relaxed as she saw the dark visage of Shimura Danzo decked out in a black cloak to prevent anyone from recognizing him, an unconscious Uchiha Itachi under one arm. "Danzo." Seo nodded to her old student. Danzo handed Itachi over to Seo, whom Obaido took, carrying Itachi on his back, mildly surprised at how light the boy is. Obaido even wondered if the boy had even eaten anything ever since the elders revealed his mission to him. Danzo sighed as he looked at the unconscious form of Itachi, feeling angry at the fire daimyo and the elders for forcing such a task on a 13-year-old boy. The fourth Hokage is the only one apart from himself to protest for imposing such a task on Itachi as well, but he was outvoted, and as this is the daimyo's order, he had no other choice. "Sensei, please take care of him," Danzo said quietly. Sayo nodded. I will, she said. She then turned towards Obaido. Let's go. Obaido nodded before the three then disappeared, leaving Danzo standing where he was, an unreadable expression on his face. Good luck, Itachi-kun, he thought. Live the life that you want to live, instead of what you had to live for the past 13 years. I trust your safety and well-being with Sayo-sensei. Create a new Uchiha clan and wherever sensei is taking you to. Good luck. He vanished with a quick shunshin. Uchiha Itachi.
I will continue this story in next part. Till then, we weeb offline.